Hey, I'm Annesa. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. Hey, I'm Annesa. Hey, my name is Annesa. I'm so glad that you're here today. So welcome to my YouTube channel. Hey, my name is Annesa. I'm so glad that you're here to watch this video. You're probably here because, well, you're either studying for the NCLEX, you probably failed the NCLEX, or you just have a lot of testing anxiety. Well, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and help you with all that, the best that I can. A little bit of background about me is I'm a student at the University of Texas at Austin. I'm in their Masters of Nursing program, and I just took my NCLEX 2 months ago for the first time, and I failed. I'm not gonna lie, oh my god, that sucked. It sucked so bad. But I'm here to help. So in this video, you'll get 3 tips that really helped me pass my NCLEX on my second try, and I'll give you a little before and after and what I did differently. So first things first, you gotta manage your stress. And I mean, I had so much trouble. You're a smart person. Okay, I already know that. You got into nursing school. You got in through those, however long that program was, whether it was 4 years, 2 years, or for me, it was an accelerated 1-year program. When I say learn how to manage your stress, what I really just mean is you need to take out all maybe the toxic parts of your life. So for me, the stresses were I had a part-time job. I had a lot of financial stress in my life, with COVID going on. And honestly, I just wasn't getting enough sleep. My anxiety was through the roof. And for some reason, instead of trying to deal with the anxiety, I just try to push it off. As somebody who does have a lot of anxiety, what I did the second time around to help combat that was, I started seeing a counselor. I started being honest with my counselor, and I tried to think hey, what can I do differently? My counselor basically just helped me with trying to figure out, what my triggers are, what I need to do differently, and, what I need to tell myself every morning to make myself feel just more confident. And last but not least, I did consult with my doctor, and I did go back on anxiety medication. I know this might seem really extreme for some people. For me, I just, sometimes your heart rate just raises up, and no matter how much deep breathing you do, whatever you do, it just doesn't go back down. So I just needed something to physically help me. And whatever anxiety medication you have, whether it's propranolol or Xanax, if you're gonna take something during the test, make sure you start taking it before when you take practice exams, or else you don't know how your body's gonna react to it. All right, so tip number 2 is that you really gotta take your time with this stuff. Constantly have positive thoughts and slow down. For the first time around, I didn't do this, but the second time around, I would wake up every morning and I would give myself positive mantras. I know it sounds so ridiculous, something that I've never done before, but I was so desperate at this point that I was willing to try anything. So what I would tell myself, and this is something that I told myself during the exam as well, I'd look myself directly in the mirror and I'd be like, you're confident, you are smart, you have proof, and I'm saying proof because I knew I took so many practice exams that there was no way, I could have not passed this time around. So I felt like, I had proof. And last but not least, every morning I tell myself, you're a nurse. Just say it every day. Act every day like you're already a nurse. Whatever exam that you're trying to overcome, just pretend you were already there and act like it every single day. Another thing is during the exam, you have to slow down. If you're doing 60 questions in 50 minutes, slow down. Unless you're a really good test taker, you have very little anxiety, you know how to manage it, you're just doing so well on all these exams. Slow down and take breaks. I took my first break when I was on question 30, and then I took my second break when I was on question 70. I didn't want to take those breaks. I felt like I could keep going. I know what it's like to take long exams. You gotta just slow down, and you gotta give yourself time to think and really read through these questions. So go to the bathroom, say your mantras, do whatever you need to do to ensure that you're gonna pass it this time. Tip number 3 is believe in yourself. Actually, I can't even say that because I really didn't believe in myself all that much. I really didn't. Especially when you fail something, when all your friends pass it. It's just hard to think that, you failed once, that anxiety creeps in that you're just gonna fail again, and that is so real. So even if you don't believe in yourself, you know what you need to do? Think about all the people that do believe in you. Your professors, your instructors, think about your best friends, think about your family. How would they feel if you constantly called yourself stupid? They'd be really sad about that, right? If one of your friends failed and they were calling themselves stupid, what would you say to them? Would you be like, yeah, you are stupid? Or you know what I mean? What would you say to them? So every time you're having self-doubt, even if you don't believe in yourself, think about all those people that believe in you. Use that belief for yourself. Don't let it make you feel like, oh, I don't want to let them down. You're not letting anybody down. Nobody. This is nobody's timeline but your timeline. You are supposed to go at the pace you're supposed to go, and you'll get there when you get there. There is no running out of time. So this last part is basically the big chunk of this video. This is what everyone wants to know. It's how did I study the second time? Well, in order to answer that, I gotta tell you what I did in the beginning. So in the beginning, before my first attempt at the exam, I had about 2.5 weeks to study. And disclaimer, some people don't study at all for this exam and they pass. Some people study for 1 week and just do a few practice exams and it works for them. And what I'm about to tell you, you guys will probably be like, oh, I did less than that and I passed. But don't let that, make you think that you're gonna pass, because you might not. You need to feel confident in your skills in order to pass. So what I did was I spent about 2.5 weeks, and all I would do is spend about an hour or two, or maybe like 2 to 3 hours a day doing practice questions and then reviewing them. And I only used Uworld because everyone was saying, oh, if you do Uworld, you will pass. That's not always the case. I feel like people take the exam so lightly. Just doing Uworld, if you do not know your knowledge, is not going to help you. You can do the whole question set and it won't really help you. And that's just what I did, and I thought I was going to be fine. When I first took the assessment in Uworld, I got below passing, and the second time I took it a week before the exam, I got borderline. And people do pass on borderline, but that wasn't the case for me. Everyone around me was passing. Everyone around me studied way less than me and they were passing, so I just equated it as me studying means I would pass. Okay, so the second time around was way different. I used the techniques, the 3 tips that I showed you, that I told you about, but how I studied really changed. So basically, I had about 6 weeks. Obviously, I took the first week off to completely just cry every day. That's normal. Cry it out. Let the emotion outside of you. I don't recommend starting to study right away. Like, you're honestly just too sad to retain anything. And honestly, if you're not sad about it, that's awesome. Then go ahead, get started to studying. But I needed at least a week or two to just grieve. I decided that I probably just didn't know my content all that well. So I'm like, you know what? I have about 5 weeks to really just focus on my content, because clearly just doing questions wasn't working for me. So I heard about this thing called climac audios. I knew about them the first time around, but I didn't really listen to them because no one else was listening to it. And this time I just felt like I was so desperate that I needed something else. I'm not the type of person that can just read something like a textbook. Oh my God, please never make me read a textbook, because I'm not gonna learn from it. So when I heard about these audios, a friend sent them to me, and I literally just sat myself down. I'm in quarantine. I'm just sitting at my dining room table. I'm listening to these audios and literally writing word for word what I could hear. So I feel like it's really important to just write it out instead of just listen to it, in the background. So I wrote them all out. It took me over 2 weeks to get through all, I believe it was 12 videos, and they're really long, but they're really helpful. So that was about half my study period was just review. During that time, I didn't really do all that many questions. I just knew that I needed to sit down and really refresh on my material. And then the other half of my studying, the last 2.5 weeks, I reviewed all the notes that I took. I took about 40 pages of notes. I reviewed them once, and then I reviewed them again to just finally instill it in my brain that I got it. And I really felt like I got it by the end of it. So Marquee was definitely a huge help for me. The second thing I did was in the last 2.5 weeks prior to my exam, I did about 20 to 30 Uworld questions every single day. A lot of people are like, do 100 a day, do 75 a day. I did what I could because I knew that I just really wanted to focus on the context. So I would do about 20 to 30, and even then, my scores were still ranging from 40s to 60s. They increased a little bit, but this time around, I was just focusing on the rationale. If I got a question wrong, I would just beat myself up for it in the beginning. But this time I knew that I was just trying to understand how they got to the answer. This exam has nothing to do with how much you know. It's about how much you understand about this exam. You have to know what they're asking for. I would just do Uworld and I would just keep it pushing. If I didn't get something right, I'm like, thank God I got it wrong now, because I want to get it right during the exam. And that's the attitude you need to have. Do not pay attention to those percentages. And then lastly, the week leading up to the exam, I did 100 questions. So I would sit down and I would time myself and I would take it like I was taking a normal question. So what I would do is I would just go to Uworld and I would click randomly 100 different questions from unused questions that I had left, and I would simulate that as an exam. And then I would spend the next day right after that just reviewing them deeply. You really need to take one day to take the exam and one day to review it. Like doing 100 questions every day is just too much. I did that 3 times in a row until I got to the test day, and then the night before I didn't do anything at all. So remember when I talked about like I have proof that I'm gonna pass? Well, the proof came from Nurshachieve, and if you haven't tried Nurshachieve, I highly recommend that you try Nurshachieve just to see if you'll pass the exam. They have this thing called the computer adaptive testing exam, just exactly how the NCLEX is, and it's just a really way for you to get used to how the NCLEX likes to test you. So as you know, the NCLEX, when you have an easy question and you get it right, they move on to a harder one, which is a medium level, and then they move on to like a hard level question. You don't have to get any of the hard questions right, but you have to get a majority of the medium questions and a majority of the low questions right, difficulty wise. And you can actually get these Nurshachieve exams for free for 30 days using code FREE30. It's amazing. I highly recommend it. It doesn't cost you anything, and it's a really good way to test, you know, how well you're doing. I took 3 in total. The first one I took, I got pass, slightly pass. I was so excited about that. The week after I got pass, and the week after that I also got pass. And I feel like if you get the result pass, it's like a good indicator that you're probably doing really well and you'll probably pass. You might not pass at 60 questions, but if you just keep your head down and do the work, I really think you have a really good chance of passing. So there y'all have it. That was my NCLEX journey. It sucked so bad, but I got through it, and hundreds of thousands of people got through it before you, and you're gonna get through it too. Even if you don't get it through next time, you'll get it the time after that. You know, just don't lose hope and don't think badly of yourself if you don't get it. Like all these people that I know that have failed, they're amazing nurses. I just started my first day as a nurse today. Like it's crazy, you know, to think how long I spent being upset and frustrated with myself for not passing, and then coming here and being like, nothing changed. Like nothing, I didn't lose any time. I just lost a lot of time being sad. Thank you again so much for coming here and watching, and good luck. Also, if you couldn't tell, I am new to YouTube. I pretty much suck at this right now. I would love any sort of support and any questions or any suggestions down in the comments, and please don't forget to subscribe.